All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it very, very much. So they'll come back here after the interview. But again, thanks for coming out, Impact Worship team. Appreciate you partnering with us tonight. A couple of call outs I wanted to make as well. First of all, Steve Burnich from ClearPoint Video has been a friend of mine going on 10 plus years, working with me on the production side. So Steve, thanks for sticking with me on this. He's been hearing me talk about it since the beginning, which was coming out of COVID 2020, praying about where we would go to church. And I can tell you exactly where I was sitting in our hearth room praying, Lord, I'd really like to find a Saturday night service would be my preference, but wherever you want to direct us. And as I was praying, I'm not going to say it was from the Lord, but it was an idea that just came, well, Saturday Night Life, living in faith every day. And, there's a lot of celebrityism in our society. And unfortunately, it snuck into the church a little bit. And I often wonder, how often do people really relate to the message that's been speaking? And for me personally, people's stories resonate with me. And that's the concept, is that we would hear interviews and conversations about everyday people living everyday life with everyday faith. So Stained Glass Theater has been gracious enough to let us use the building. We'll be broadcasting here on opening weekends. Just want to encourage you, if you can, come out and see the current show, 7H Letters. It's going open this weekend. We'll be going through May 2nd, Thursdays and Fridays at 7 p.m., Saturdays at 2 o'clock. And then one last plug, Orchard Audio out of Branson has lent us the sound equipment. So I want to give a shout out to them as well. So without any further ado, I want to introduce our guest tonight, Bethany Hackman. She's our friend, a family. Come on in. So
good to be here. I just got to get a little mic on. No big deal. So fun to be here. Thanks, Jeremy, for inviting me. Worship was amazing.
So let's jump into it, Bethany.
Yeah.
You first want to tell the audience how we know each other.
Well, we're cousins, actually. Do we look like?
Yep.
Yeah.
I like to say I've known her all her life. So, just true.
My mom and your dad.
Yep.
I mean, my dad and your mom.
Yep.
We're brother and sister.
And we used to see each other holidays, and I'm 10 plus years older, so we're kind of in different phases of our life. But again, I've known Bethany all her life. So where do you live now?
I live in Kansas City now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you were raised
in Iowa on a farm outside a tiny town. I like to call it a village because there's only 500 people.
And siblings?
I have 7. There's 8 of us. So it's a blended family. So there's some from each side. And I like to tell people I have 2 sisters named Tracy. Yep. Just to throw them off.
Tracy Lee and Tracy Ann is how I knew them growing up. So.
Moms and dads. Mm-hmm.
So just for some fun, what's a childhood nickname that you're willing to share?
Well, the only one that really comes to mind is because I had really crazy hair when I'd wake up in the morning, and sometimes my brothers would call me Witchy Poo. So, all right. The only one that comes to mind.
Well, we'll leave that right here. How's that? So
don't tell anyone.
Okay. Now, what did you want to do when you grew up? What did you want to be when you grew up? When you were a child? As an adult, what did you want to become?
Yeah, I told my mom when I was 4 that I wanted to be an artist and missionary when I grew up. I guess I was really inspired by missionaries that came to our church, telling stories of kids on the street, and I loved winning coloring contests.
All right, so what do you do now?
I'm an artist and missionary. My dreams came true.
That's great. Tell us a little bit more about what you do in Kansas City.
Yeah, so I am an artist and designer, and then I spend a lot of my time working with foster and adopted kids at risk in the city. So a lot of programs that target kids in residential treatment facilities, kids in public school systems that maybe don't get to access to church or the gospel, or kind of vulnerable kids. I counsel some and work with YWAM, Youth with a Mission.
Okay, great, thank you. So when you look on your life journey, what's a quick story or memory you like to share?
Well, I guess I like to share how I came to the Lord, because I had a period. I grew up knowing and loving Jesus when I was little. I even wrote letters to him when I was 13. I have a notebook with all my little prayers in it. But there was something along those lines where I just started to doubt everything so far that I walked off the path of following the Lord. And it wasn't until the end of my freshman year of college that something really traumatic happened that just made that world spin and spiral down. And so I realized, man, when I was little, I remember being loved by Jesus and fully accepted. And that's way better than where I'm at right now. Nothing is worse than this. And so I just remember that moment where I felt there was no turning back once I said yes. Like there was such beauty and peace. And I felt the whole like light of God, his presence fill me. And I knew in that moment I was new. Like, and I didn't want to ever turn back. Like there was nothing better than being back home with him, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so from then on, I was like, I don't even care about college. I'm going to save the world and tell everyone how awesome he is. Yeah. So that was a turning point in my life.
Excellent. And I remember you sharing one time as you were going through that period of doubt, you actually had a conversation, I think it was in DC, where you had a run-in with some evolutionists or whatever. And why don't you tell the story?
So, yeah. So I was hanging out with a lot of atheists at the time, and I was at a party. And somebody asked me, do you believe in God? And I thought, oh, this is a loaded question at a party. I know who I'm hanging out with. And I said, yeah, I'm working through things, but yeah, I think so. And they said, well, you know what? My friend and I are here studying for our PhDs, the evolutionary theory. We're here studying that. We're getting our doctorate. And they're like, keep believing in God. That's what they said to me. They said, there's so many holes in this theory. It is easier to believe in God than it is in what we're studying. And we're stuck here in a doctorate program. So those little things just kept me going, you know what? Let's keep on this path of figuring things out. God's worth.
So the Lord spoke through them to you.
Yeah. Yeah, at a party.
Yep, that's great. Married, family?
Not married, no. I wish, if you know anybody. Just kidding. No, still believing and hoping some days my faith are better than others, that marriage will happen. But I do have a son, and I'm going to kind of tell the story of how he came into my life.
Excellent. So, I want to do get to know the guest a little bit, and then as we transition, I have this little thing called things Jesus never said, and those things are little scrolls right here. So, Bethany, you want to do the favors and pick out a scroll of something Jesus never said.
So official. Oh boy. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in Washington.
Not to get controversial here.
I didn't write that one.
But I think sometimes we try to find our future and our faith in things of the world. And the Lord came to give us a kingdom in our hearts. And in fact, Jesus said, I don't have a kingdom in this world. And I actually believe if Jesus wanted to change politics in his day, he would have taught and spoke on the steps of the courthouse rather than on the hills to common folk. And so he wants to speak to our hearts, and he wants to establish his kingdom in our lives and the lives of other people. So good. Thanks for indulging me on that. All right. So let's go back to the interview. You mentioned your son. So tell us a little bit about Kellen.
Okay. So Kellen is almost 12. He came to me through foster care, and he is now adopted and legally my son. He is the life of the party. He's so much fun. He's so bright. He's so brings the best out of everybody, really. People adore him. And every person that comes in contact with him just tells me, oh, that kid is so sweet. I like that Kellen. Super sporty, into the things most boys love, video games and hanging with friends. But he's an overcomer. I think that's what I would say most about him, that he's so resilient and he's overcome so many things kids will never experience in their life before his first 3.5 years of life. Okay. And he's a phenomenal boy.
And how long has he been in your life?
Over 8 years now.
And how did that happen?
So through foster care, as I mentioned, I had just gotten my foster care license, and I never expected to take in 2 kids. I never expected to take in a boy, but I was kind of open to whatever kind of the need was. And after I got my license, there was an email I received that said 2 little kids need a home. They're in an emergency shelter. 2-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. And I responded, I have space. And within a couple hours, I had a 2-year-old and a 3.5-year-old, the clothes on their back, one pair of pajamas, and a stuffed animal. And that was it. And I was a mom instantly, a foster mom. And my son Kellen was the 3.5-year-old boy.
So then when did you get the idea or have the idea about adoption?
Yeah, well, I always thought it was a good idea. But to actually do it was kind of a process, and it was kind of long. But it started when I was first interested in ending injustice and trafficking. And so as I started learning about suffering and injustice in the world, I thought I have to do something about it. I can't sit by. So I started volunteering with an organization in Kansas City that went out to women on the streets who are stuck in prostitution and who have been trafficked or are currently being trafficked. So those women and men, I discovered after weeks and weeks of reaching out to them and seeing the devastation of their lives, 80 to 90% of these people on the streets were in foster care. And when I heard that, I just was shocked. And I remember thinking they could be saved 40 years of pain and trauma if they knew when they were little that they were loved and wanted and belonged in God's family. And I just felt this almost like, peace from the Lord, like this is where you can bring hope to kids. And I thought, okay, foster care and adoption, where they're in a permanent place. I don't know anything about kids, working with kids. I have nieces and nephews, but it's never what I saw myself doing. But I just knew this is the place to bring hope. This is where I wanted to work. So fast forward, I ended up becoming a chaplain in residential treatment facilities for foster kids. I saw firsthand what trafficking does to a child and what Jesus can bring to a child. So I ended up working in a children's home with 40 to 50 kids and saw over and over again the Lord bringing hope and healing to their little hearts. And then I lived with an adoptive family where the mom had at least 10 adopted kids and her husband passed away. So I was living it, working it. But it terrified me, to be honest, the idea of adopting, because I saw what it took for a child to be restored and the amount of trauma that a child can experience. So I started getting little promptings, I would call it, from the Lord to be willing to adopt. Mm-hmm. So that's how it started. But I was not willing to take the first step yet. Yep. That moment.
So then how did it make you want to adopt? How long did it take you to?
Yeah, well, it's funny because every time I read the Bible, it's like I couldn't get away from adoption and I couldn't get away from taking in the homeless poor. I was already visiting the orphan in their distress, but just this heart of the Father over and over again, the spirit of adoption. So every time I read the Bible, it was there. Then every time I prayed, I felt like it was there. And then people would pray for me and it would be highlighted. I even had people who didn't know anything about me pray. One guy said, I see you taking in people that nobody else wants to take in, and I see it like you're terrified to do that. But once you do that, you understand the love of God in a way you would never have known had you not taken in those ones. And he said, there are even ones nobody else really wants to take in. He said, but I see you weeping and weeping because you know the Father in a way that you would never have known. And actually, that was the first point that I had a real yes in my heart. Because I want more of him. That's kind of selfish, but like if I'm going to know him, I'll do it. But it just still took a lot of convincing because I thought it was still prayer.
So how did you overcome that fear and concern?
I started taking little steps and I kept kind of not testing the Lord, but saying, okay, I'll take this step, I'll take that step. But I still thought it was an Abraham Isaac situation where he'll eventually provide a ram and say, you don't have to do it. Because my first argument was I'm single and that's not ideal for a kid. Like that doesn't even make sense. I mean, you brought Joseph to Mary when she was with child, but I'm not the son of God's mom, you know? So I'll tell you the thing that finally sealed it, because I thought, okay, this is happening in prayer. People I meet are saying like, I think you're going to adopt a boy. My roommate had a dream that I was adopting a boy, all this crazy stuff. But to me, I'm like, that's still prayer. So I was walking in a church one day. This is what finally sealed it on the outside. I was walking in a church one day and a guy stopped me in the parking lot and he said, hey, I know I'm a stranger, but can I ask you a quick question? And I said, sure. And he goes, are you planning to adopt a child? And I just kind of froze. I said, why do you ask? He goes, well, I really feel every time I pray, the Lord tells me to give money to an adoption. And every time I see you, I feel like it's you. Are you adopting a child? And I said, well, I'm in foster care classes. I'm nervous. I feel like I'm supposed to. And he goes, okay, it's you. He goes, wait right there. He went to his car. He brought me an envelope and it had $1,000 in it. And I held that envelope. I think I was shaking. And I just thought, this is real. Like, this isn't just prayer. This isn't just a missionary complex or a good idea. Like, this is real. This is forever. Like, adoption's forever. And I just walked into the church that day going, okay, I'm going to do this. Like, I don't care if it feels like I'm jumping out of a plane. This is you. And I can't ignore this. So that made me go, okay, I'm doing it. I'm terrified, but I'm doing it.
So you got the courage, and then he encouraged you. And
Yeah.
then, so tell us about the process. What was that like?
Yeah, so I finished foster care classes, and I even told the Lord, hey, I need like triple the income because I'm living as a missionary right now as a chaplain for foster kids, everything. So I said, I'll send one email, but you've got to do the rest. Well, in that one email, I had people respond and say, hey, I'd love to pay your rent. I'd love to support you as you take in kids. And the money came in that I could move out of the home I was living and had one roommate and was able to provide. So he provided financially. I couldn't use that excuse. And then he just had everything set in place for me. So I had a home, I got my license, and then I got the email about 2 little kiddos. So
it's great.
That was the next step.
So then how long did that process take as he set those things in motion?
I don't remember the exact time frame, but I do know that I was officially licensed in February, and it seemed to take a while. And I remember thinking, why is this taking so long? I wanted one baby, honestly. That's what I wanted because I thought that'd be the easiest. And then someday far down the road, he would actually have me adopt. Or if I did have to adopt a baby, it would be the easiest. And so it just kept waiting, and I actually never got any calls, which is really weird. Foster care, your heart is not for adoption. Your heart is actually to help a family get their kid back. And that's a beautiful thing. They just need time, a lot of times, to get back on their feet. So I thought this is still just a baby step. It's not actually adoption when I started this. So it was 10 months, I think. It was February, and then November 22nd, I got that email about 2 kids. And I thought, well, you know what? It's just foster care right now. They're little. I think I can handle this. I thought I could. And so that was the timeline. And then November 22nd is the day.
Great.
My life changed.
So how did you see the Lord make a way? Were there any obstacles, or was it free sailing once you got your license? Or
No, foster care is challenging because you fall in love with the kids so quickly, and you want to support that biological parent to get the child back. You really want to see them thrive and the family be back together. But as soon as you start to see some of the things that have happened, and in my son's case, he came in with only 30% development of where he should be because of what happened to him. Like, there was real things that happened that are hard to forgive somebody for doing. And so the first obstacle is, how do you love something so much and be willing to let it go? First obstacle, right? And then the second one is his half-sister's family was fighting very hard to get both of them back, even though I didn't feel like it was a good idea at all. So yeah, it even got so crazy, I was taken to court. And it's very common for foster parents to get accused of things. It's understandable. If you're a parent, you get desperate to get your kids back. You'll do whatever it takes sometimes. But very few parents get taken to court. So I was even taken to court, and to hear people testify of things you've never done that make you so devastated to hear, that was challenging. And to think, I've been chosen to adopt this little boy for the rest of my life, and I love him so much. And the thought of, in a moment, these people's words could send him back to a very dangerous situation. It feels like life and death. And then all eyes are on you. And in that situation, they called me and said, well, they know your address, watch your neighborhood. We don't know what they're capable of. So this is not common for anyone here who wants to foster. It can be so beautiful. And I know stories of families that still stay connected and the kids do great. But in this situation, I felt even danger, and I felt life and death, like, oh, what's going to happen with these kiddos? So those were big obstacles. So God came through. He really did in most ways.
Now, you mentioned Kellen's half-sister.
Mhm.
What's her story?
Yeah, so she was 2, had a different dad, and just a delight, just so lovable, so wonderful. She hadn't been through quite as much as my son, but she was just the love of our lives. Kellen adored her as well. And so, yeah, I had her almost 2 years, and then the state decided Dad could have a second chance, and she went back. And so that was probably the hardest thing I'd ever been through in my life, of all the things I'd been through. And to let go and say, okay, God, I don't understand you in this. I'm going to have a couple conversations with you about this, because this doesn't seem like your nature. We love her. I don't see a happy ending, right?
Mhm.
Like, what if Kellen blames me for her leaving and he doesn't understand? We're going to grieve the rest of our lives. It feels like a death, but without an ending, without closure, you know? So that was tough to watch that tiny girl go that we loved with all our heart and soul, and know that there's a chance he'll move out of state so that we can't have access to her.
So when you look back, is there a specific story through the process that you say, wow? I mean, you mentioned the $1,000. Is there anything else that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, he met me time after time, but I would say in the transition with the 2 kiddos and letting his sister leave us, there was a moment that it was actually the first night she went to stay with her dad. And I thought, this is so heartbreaking. And Kellen he was 5 at the time, and he snuggled right up and wanted to read a story before bed. And I was reading him about heaven. And I said, I was reading about there's no sadness in heaven. I'm like, how do I comfort a 5-year-old who's devastated? And I said, there's no tears in heaven. At one point he stopped me and he goes, why are there no tears in heaven? He goes, I have tears and I'm not sad. And I said, you have tears but you're not sad. Why are you so happy? And he goes, because I have you. And he hugged me. And I just started crying too. And I thought, wow, this is a miracle right now. This is a miracle that he knows he's safe with me.
Yeah.
And though he's lost the closest family member, he knows he's safe, and we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like I knew it. We're going to be okay.
Great. So when was the process final, the adoption process, and what was that like? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, he was 5. So his sister left a few months after that. It was kind of a crazy day because at any moment I thought I'd be called into court, like I mentioned. So it was the day of. I hadn't got hotlined by anyone, and it was going to happen. So we had just a couple hours to execute. Poor Kellen had no idea what was going on. He's like, I can't call you mommy. Everyone told me I can't call you that. You know, I'm like, well, actually the judge says it's okay. So it's okay. But it was such a beautiful day. Like, so many people came to support. I think there were 30 or 40 people there, family and friends, and ones who prayed and wrapped around me and come alongside. It was a beautiful day. And then I think there was a little confusion still, but the very next day, it like really settled into Kellen's little heart. And he ran downstairs to my mom and dad who had come for the adoption. And he ran up to my mom and said, Grandma, I'm a Hackman now. He just knew he belonged. Like, he knew it deep down, you know, like forever. There was something in a little heart, like you wouldn't think a 5-year-old would feel that. But even at his little school, they met with me like a month later, and they said, wow, he couldn't even trace on his work. And they're really concerned because at 5, you should be able to trace something. And within a few weeks, he was writing letters for his name. And they showed me his work, and they're like, I don't know what just happened, but his development changed drastically these last few weeks. And we kind of scratched our heads like, well, what happened? And then I went, his adoption. He was adopted. And they all went, of course. And they all started crying. And they're like, that safety of knowing he's forever in a home, like, actually changes your body and your brain. Like, he knows he's safe. And we're all in tears. They're like, he's going to have such a happy future. And so that was a moment, like, I know what happens to the brain when a child feels stressed, when they feel like they don't belong, when they have trauma. And so just that safety of knowing he belongs forever actually enabled him to learn his letters in a few weeks. So that was pretty cool.
So tell us about life now.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's walking on clouds every day. No, it is beautiful, actually. Like when I was reflecting for this, I was just crying and crying, because if you had told me at that moment it was going to be awesome and that I would be crying, I mean, over knowing the love of Jesus and loving a child so much, like so deeply. I didn't know I could love a human so much. If you had told me that, I don't know that I would have believed you, because it was very stressful at the beginning. Just there was so much to figure out and so much pain in a little person's heart because of what had happened. And so life now is like, oh, these bumps feel like bumps instead of massive mountains that we cry and pray and wrestle through. Now it feels like we're riding the bumps. We're on like mountain bikes riding the bumps. So I would say life is really beautiful. I'm so grateful. Like I said, I didn't know I could love someone so much. And it's such a gift from God. He's my greatest gift. And I didn't know the Lord. I didn't know I would know the Lord in the way I do.
So that's a segue into my next question. So how has the adoption process changed your perspective or given you insight into your spiritual life?
Oh, it's so good. I would say it feels like a prodigal son, father story. And sometimes I feel like I'm the father loving my son no matter what he's done and no matter what happens. My love is so deep. I'm like, please believe me. Like, please believe that I love you. Don't have shame, or don't run from me or hide from me. You know, like I love you so deeply. And then sometimes I feel like I'm on the other side where I'm the prodigal and I'm so ashamed of my reactions or who I am. And I feel the Father loved me in the same way. Like, Bethany, don't hide from me. Like, you are fully accepted. Don't bring that to me. You know, the quicker you bring that to me and realize how much I love you, this will be so much easier for you. Like, just let me care for you, you know? So I think it is. It's taught me so much about grace. It's taught me so much about his love for me in my mess. And I've seen so much healing and beauty and faithfulness that I feel like, wow, if I can get through that, then if we can make it to here from there, he can do anything. So I think it has increased my faith in him. He's a faithful father. And when he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it.
Excellent. So let's begin wrapping this up. To your 20-something-year-old self, perhaps in that doubt phase, what would you say to yourself?
Oh, he's so good. I didn't know he was good. I didn't trust him. And I think seeing his faithfulness to my son, the healing to me, his faithfulness to me, I would tell my 20-something self, like, I know it's hard to see it, but it's true and it's real that he's good. He's faithful. And he will make all those wrong things right. I mean, I know that it stinks that you have to wait for all the injustice, but he's going to do it.
To someone longing for a child, or maybe even going through that adoption process right now, what would you say?
There's a lot. That he's with you. Something that he kept promising me is from Isaiah 40, I gently care for those who have young, like over and over. And I carry you close like a lamb to my heart. That he'll be with you in it. It's super hard. I'm not going to lie. It will get all the counseling, like do the practicals, get all the support, get all the counseling, get all of the prayer. I have a friend that I prayed with. We tried to pray every single week. She had also adopted and kind of knew this wrestle. It feels like life and death. Is your kid going to go back to a meth house? Is your kid going to be abused again that you love so much? And we prayed together. We waited on the Lord and just invited him into those places where we were afraid or we were angry or it was too hard, too much. And that process was so beautiful. So I would say get a prayer partner. Trust him that he's going to carry you. Those are my main things I would say.
And then finally, last question, then you're off the hot seat. What does it mean to you to live in faith every day?
That's so good. And a picture kind of comes to mind because someone said, you're about, when you've taken this kid, it's like jumping out of a plane. And I've done that. And it's terrifying. And my whole body was shaking, like I couldn't even take the first step. But what's beautiful is you have somebody strapped to you and they can kind of push you if you can't do it. Like they help you and they're the ones pulling the parachute. They make sure you don't die. So I feel like, man, if I could think of what faith looks like, you can sit in the plane, take a plane and just check out and hope you get there to your destination and like, sweet, made it, and not ever talk to the Lord. Or you can say, okay, God, I'm ready. If you say jump, I'll jump. You are my only lifeline, you know? And I want to do what you say. And I want to, whatever you're asking me, if it's something tiny or if it's something massive, I want to trust you that you're going to get me through it. And you might enjoy it. Like I remember being halfway through like, wow, this is such a beautiful view. This is so cool. And he wanted me to steer. And I was like, okay, I'm making myself sick. I am not steering. So I think I look at it like, wow, it's a partnership. He'll let us do and it's so beautiful. Look at this view. Look at this experience we're having with the Lord that we would miss. And mostly this partnership, this God that we get to trust and know intimately. We get to know him in a way we would never know if we just check out and go, we're good, we're coasting. I don't really need you, God. So I would say it's like a dependency. And sometimes we need his help to get there, right? Like, help me be dependent. I want that deep relationship with you where we know each other. We're working together, we're partnering, and look what we get to see and do. So that's my long answer to your question.
So jump is what you're saying.
Yes,
so
do it.
Well, thank you very much, Bethany. So I appreciate you being open and transparent. And it seems appropriate to introduce Kellen to the people here. So why don't you come on up, Kellen?
My boy. This is my boy. Looks just like me.
He is a lot of fun. So why don't you go ahead and have a seat, or if you want to sit back down there. But I'm going to just try to wrap this up a little bit. The band's going to come back up and play a couple songs. But again, thank you. I don't know that I can add too much, except it just feels like I should. And my Baptist background says I should have 3 points. So I'm going to have 2 half points and then a couple to wrap up. The first one is when I was doing a little bit of research on adoption back in biblical times and Roman times, I was struck that, Paul wrote about adoption in Christ, and Paul was raised Jewish. Well, the Jews did not have adoption in their background. That was a Roman thing. In Jews, it was just part of their life. If someone passed away, someone took their children. Of course, they took care of orphans, and they became part of the family. But there was not that legal transaction where someone went from one life and went to another. And it dawned on me that the Lord speaks in ways we understand. Paul didn't understand that in his background, but he knew that the Romans did understand that. So he used something that was common to them to speak to Romans, that you could have a different life. He speaks to us, sometimes through atheists, sometimes through little children that come into our lives. So my first question is, are you listening? Be open. You never know when he's speaking. I like the saying that he's constantly speaking to us, but over time we'll understand what he's saying. The second thing, or point 1B, I guess, is in the Roman Empire, when they adopted families, it was usually royalty that adopted. It was purposely to secure and expand their lineage. That's why God wants to adopt us, to give us a better life, to expand his kingdom and do more for him. But let's talk a little bit about adoption itself. I found this website, Alicia, and it talks about adoption in Roman culture. And it says, legally in the Roman Empire, when someone was adopted legally, that child was freely chosen by the parents, desired by the parents. And secondly, that child would be a permanent part of that family. Parents couldn't disown a child they adopted. An adopted child received a new identity. Any prior commitments, responsibilities, and debts were automatically erased. New rights and responsibilities were taken on. Also in ancient Rome, the concept of inheritance was part of life, not something that began at death, but being adopted made someone an heir to their father, joint sharers in all of his possessions, immediately united to him. That's what Paul wrote about in Romans 8:14-17. He says, for those who are led by the Spirit are the children of God. The Spirit you received does not make you slaves so that you live in fear. Rather, the Spirit you received brought you an adoption to sonship. And we cry to him, Abba, Father. The Spirit himself testifies with your spirit that we are God's children. Now, if we are children, then we are heirs, heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ. So wrapping that up, we are adopted by Christ. Whatever our past has, we are not that anymore. We are not failure. We are not bankrupt. We are not divorced. We are not single. We are in Christ, and we have his full heirship, all of his inheritance right now, today. And it's a shame that so often we put off our sonship, daughtership, whatever you want to say, for something in the future. Adoption was not something for eternity. It was something for right now. How ridiculous would it have been if Bethany said, Kellen, you're my son. When you turn 21, you receive all the benefits. It was immediate. He was a hackman now, and his life changed. You're Christ now. Your life can change.
Who I at the highest king, but welcome. I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Free at last, he has ransomed. His grace was me. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house I won't forget the wonder of how you brought deliverance, the exodus of my heart. 'Cause you found me, you freed me, held back the waters from my release. Oh Yahweh, 'cause you're the God who fights for me, Lord of every victory. Hallelujah, hallelujah. You have torn apart the sea, you have led me through the deep. Hallelujah, hallelujah. The cloud by day is the sign that you are with me. The fire by night is the guiding light to my feet. 'Cause you found me, you freed me, held back the waters from my release. Oh Yahweh, 'cause you're the God who fights for me, Lord of every victory. Hallelujah, hallelujah. You have torn apart the sea, you have led me through the deep. Hallelujah, hallelujah. You stepped into my Egypt, you took me by the hand, you marched me out in freedom into the promised land. Now I will not forget you, God, I'll sing of all you've done. Death is swallowed up forever by the fury of your love. 'Cause you stepped into my Egypt, you took me by the hand, you marched me out in freedom into the promised land. Now I will not forget you, God, I'll sing of all you've done. Death is swallowed up forever by the fury of your love. 'Cause you're the God who fights for me, Lord of every victory. Hallelujah, hallelujah. You have torn apart the sea, you have led me through the deep. Hallelujah, hallelujah. 'Cause you're the God who fights for me, Lord of every victory. Hallelujah, hallelujah. You have torn apart the sea, you have led me through the deep. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Tuning in. Thank you for coming. Remember, you are a child of God. Remember, He is fighting for you. We'll see you again. Have a good night. Thank you, guys.